Hello dancers, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having an amazing day. Now, as you can see by the title, this video is very girly and we're talking about a topic that I actually really want to normalize a little bit more, and that is periods. So I thought it would be a very good idea to just sit here in public and chat about periods. I actually saw recently that Dancing with Mackenzie released a video all about periods, and when I saw it, because I've had so many requests about it as well, I thought, you know what, why not talk about it? Why not normalize it more? We're all girls here listening to this video and it's a normal bodily function for us. So I'm really happy to be speaking about it today. I'm going to go through my personal experiences and then also my top tips. And I actually have some really good ones because obviously I am 27. I've had my period a million times before, so I really want to help all of you. Obviously, every woman and girl gets their period at a different time in their life, and I believe that happens for everyone at the right time. I personally got my period when I was 16. I had just moved to London. I was attending the Royal Ballet School and it was my first week. And so obviously I was in a brand new country. Everything felt very foreign to me. And of course, what happened? That first weekend I was in London, I get my period. So obviously I was in a brand new country on my own, and I had spoken to my mum about it before I left, but at the same time it had been a long time since we spoke about that. So I kind of freaked out to begin with, and I sort of had no idea what to do, what to use. And my roommate at the time, shout out to Ellen, I'm not going to say her last name, but Ellen was seriously amazing. We got on so well just straight away, and she was like, okay, Claudia, this is what you're going to do. I'm going to come into the toilet with you. She was like, you're going to use an applicator tampon, and I've actually got the ones that I used back then and I still use them now. I'll show you. By the way, this is my period bag. It's got dash hands on it. So if you guys see me holding this bag, you know what's up. This is what I use. It's an applicator tampon. I find the applicators personally so much easier to use, and I think it's just because it was the first time I ever got my period. I used this and I sort of still use it to this day. So anyway, Ellen showed me how to use it, how to put a tampon up, angling it diagonally to the back. Anyway, all that stuff. And then also obviously at night I used my pads. And then from then on, for me, it was just a very normal experience ever since she taught me. Thank you, Ellen, again. Obviously now when I get my period, you know, I don't freak out. It's been years later, but if you are new to it all, just remember that it will become second nature and very normal for you to experience and go through what I also did at your age too. Now, the most common symptoms that I personally find when I'm on my period is I feel really heavy, like my whole body feels heavy. I find my energy levels are very low. I find my boobs get a little bit swollen and they're bigger, and I can definitely feel that. My upper legs swell as well. And then obviously the next thing that comes with it too is that you sort of change your eating habits, I find, when you're on your period. It's very hard to resist the chocolate and the junk food, I think, because you want to fuel your body more food, and sometimes just not the best food just because that's what your body wants. However, I am going to give you some top tips on how to avoid that and all the other symptoms that I went through just then. One of the first things that I think is very important is if you've already got your period, you have to make sure that you are logging your period and when you actually get it. So I personally track my period on an app called Flow. It is amazing because first of all, I'm very regular with my periods. My periods are like clockwork. Like I know what day I'm gonna get it. It's so just on time. However, I know everyone's quite different with that, but I feel if you do track it, it's just easier to be ready for it when it actually comes. And obviously you can prevent and do little tips to make sure you don't feel as lethargic, or you just feel in general more confident when you actually have your period. Obviously the Flow app is amazing to use when you already have your period, but if you don't have it yet, then I'd highly recommend download the Flow app and just track it when you can, because it makes it so much easier. The other thing to remember too is that there are things that can delay your period, especially if you find you've got a very stressful job or it's a stressful time of the month. I've found previously that although I'm very regular, there are times when my period might be, 2 or 3 days late if it's like a really busy time of the month. So don't be too scared, if your period isn't 100% regular, because there are things that can stop it from being regular all the time, as well, like your hormones. Our hormones are constantly changing, so just be prepared for that. My next top tip, as I said, one of the symptoms that I always find is that my boobs tend to swell a lot, so I would make sure that if I'm wearing a leotard, I'm wearing a really supportive crop top underneath. And actually, I'm gonna show you a little hack that I used to do when I was in the company. So, for me to feel more supportive when I was just wearing a leotard, because sometimes leotards, you know, they do offer a little bit of support, but sometimes not enough for that time of the month. I would get a pair of tights, and I'm actually gonna show you what I used to do. I used to cut the crotch like this. You're gonna love this. This is like the best hack ever. Well, I think it is. I used to find it so helpful when I was a dancer. Okay, it doesn't need to be neat, just like snip, snip away. Then that's gonna become the neck hole. You can kind of see where this is going. Then this is gonna be your armhole. So you snip here. RIP to this pair of tights. And then this is the next armhole. And obviously you're cutting the leg holes here. And then I'll show you what you do. You literally wear it like this. It's so cool. So I would wear this underneath my leotard. It might be quite hard because I'm obviously like wearing a shirt here. And there's people watching me, but YOLO. This, so cute. It's actually amazing. Anyway, so I used to wear this underneath my leotards when I was on my period, and I just found that the stockings and tights would just add a little bit more compression. So personally, that's what I used to do. Obviously, you've got to remember that everyone's boobs do grow to a different size, and I think you have to embrace what you have. I always had bigger boobs as a dancer, and I would just embrace it and do things that would help my body personally, because everyone's different, and I think the sooner that you can just accept that that's what you have, the better and more confident you're going to be as a dancer. So the next tip is a very obvious one. I would say if it's your time of the month, then wear darker colors, or if you know you're about to come on your period, or even if you just have an inkling that you haven't got your period yet or before, but like you feel as though your body might be going through that change, I think just wear darker colors. You can wear bike shorts, you can wear skirts to cover up a little bit, just so you feel, yeah, a little bit more covered up. I mean, you could even wear red. No, I'm just kidding, don't wear red. I always used to wear black though, because even still to this day, I'm 27, I'm still paranoid about my period leaking. So you'll literally only ever see me wear black leggings, because still to this day I worry about it. And even as well, like in normal life too, like I'm always paranoid. So I think it's just important that as a dancer, for you to feel more comfortable and confident, then you're better off going for the darker colors. The next thing that I'd recommend is painkillers. I mean, obviously speak to your doctor, but I'm giving you my personal tips. When it's that time of the month, I mean, I used to just go through the pain and just put up with it, but I've sort of learnt over time, you know, why am I putting my body and mind through that pain? Because sometimes it would be a lot when you're trying to still do things and get on with life, and then you're putting up with like extreme period pains or headaches or whatever you've got. So, and I'll just give you an example too. It is important that you listen to your body. When you are in your period, if you're feeling really fatigued, or your cramps are a lot, or your symptoms are just through the roof, then take a break. I was teaching a class, and this has never happened to me before, but I was trying to push through the pain, and I was teaching a class, coaching, and I was fine 1 minute, and the next minute my whole face went white. The pain was like excruciating, and I actually had to ask the student at the time, I said, please, I need to just excuse myself for a moment. And I actually ended up having to cancel all my lessons for the rest of that day, because I knew my body was screaming at me, Claudia, you need to rest, you need to be kind to yourself. So all of you, just remember, this happens to all of us. I still have to do that. I still have to think and put my body first. Otherwise, if I don't, you're putting up with a lot of pain, and it's ultimately just not good for you. I think it's important to know when to rest, when to have painkillers if you really need it, and to not put up with extreme pain if you can avoid it. Now, I know there are so many different things that you can do to control when your period comes and when your period doesn't with birth control. Now, I'm just gonna tell you a few little stories. So when I joined the Royal Ballet, it was like a little bit of a trend that everyone was on this same pill, because on this particular pill, you wouldn't get a period at all. Now, I thought that would be obviously amazing for a dancer. Like, can you imagine, like, you're on stage every night, you're constantly worrying about your period, you know, everyone's a little bit about that topic. And I thought just not having a period would be great for me. So I went on this pill and everyone was on it too, and everyone seemed to like be fine on it, but all of a sudden my acne was hectic. Like, it was just breaking out my skin. But at the time I didn't realize that, because obviously everyone else was on it and no one else was getting acne. No one else was having that issue. So I sort of just thought it was just, you know, my body going through something. So anyway, I didn't get a period for years. Anyway, I came back home and I saw my doctor, and she was like, Claudia, you know, what pill are you on? I said, oh, look, when I was with the Royal Ballet, I was on this pill. And she immediately said, okay, now your body was getting too much estrogen in that time. I think it was estrogen. And that's the reason why your skin is the way it is right now. She said, I'm gonna swap you onto this other pill. And I went on this other pill called Estella. And while I was on Estella, it seemed to be working absolutely fine. But however, when my mum passed away from a brain aneurysm, I was really paranoid about getting headaches. And I was finding over time, sometimes I was getting a lot of headaches, right? And I, again, like once mum passed away, I was so paranoid about it, because that was one of the symptoms of a brain aneurysm. So I went and saw my doctor, and she just said, Claudia, I think let's just get your body and hormones completely normal and neutral. Let's not put anything in your body. If this is really upsetting you and you're paranoid about getting headaches, I think it's just, how about we come off the pill and let's just regulate your body. And honestly, that was the best thing I ever did. First of all, I found that without birth control and not being on birth control at all for about the past 4 years, I feel like my moods are very level. I feel like my boobs and body, just everything settled down. I found when I was on the pill, everything was like always a little bit puffy, like I just felt not myself. And of course, the biggest thing is that my period is so regular now, and also I don't get the headaches, and I just feel more like myself. So I know there's obviously things that you can do to really track and have full control of your period. However, I've sort of found over time that my body needed to be regulated for me to feel like Claudia. So I just wanted to pass on that story for you all too, just in case some of you are thinking about going on the pill. I just think do your research, really communicate with your doctor to make sure that the pill that you're going on isn't because everyone else is going on it, it's because your body needs that. Now, my next top tip is, as I mentioned before, I always use applicator tampons. I find them so much easier to use. I don't know why. I think it's just because that's what I used when I first started to learn how to put a tampon up. There's definitely people watching me right now. I'm actually going to show you the tampons I use, because I'm that dedicated to this video and helping you all. This is what an applicator tampon looks like this, and you just pull and it locks and it clicks. Then obviously you angle it up to the back. I mean, I'm sure some of you already know this. I'm not going to show you how to actually put a tampon up, but then all you simply do is you push on this, and then it pushes the tampon up and out. And then how easy is that? And then obviously it's up there, and then you just pull the string to get it out. Easy peasy. And the other thing I prefer to use is pads at night. I personally don't like using pads during the day. I just find it very uncomfortable. I like feeling more free. So these are amazing because they have wings. So I'll just show you this. And you do this. You put this part on your undies, and then you pull this. I'm sure your mums are going to show you how to do this if you haven't seen it before. But if they haven't, here's Mum Claudia. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, and then you pull that, and then you put the little flap wing things like this under your undies, like that. I personally prefer to use pads at night. The one time where I find periods really uncomfortable is the second day. I think your symptoms are at peak. I think the flow, I personally have like medium flow, but the flow is the worst on the second day, so I'm always very prepared. So sometimes if I find it is really heavy, I'll use an applicator tampon and have a pad there just in case, because as I said, I am paranoid about my period leaking. Now, another thing is with the applicator tampons, I would change mine every 2 to 3 hours just to make sure again, that nothing's gonna leak. And with my pads, the same thing too, because you wanna stay nice and fresh. Now, let's talk about food and what you crave. So obviously your body craves more junk, more chips, more chocolate. So I would just make sure when you're on your period, try and eat as much red meat as possible. Make sure you're trying to fuel your body with good foods, because it's only going to make you feel better. When you're feeling already worse about yourself while you're on your period, the last thing you want to be doing is feeding yourself junk, because we all know what that does to our mood swings. So make sure you're feeding and fueling yourself with good foods. Once again, everyone, these are my top tips. I mean, I know this video is very left field. However, I've had so many requests about it, and I hope that you've at least just learnt one new thing about your period, or just ways that you can help when you're on that time of the month. So remember, of course, if you have anything to ask, just ask it in the comments below. We're all girls here. It's a very normal bodily function, as I said, and we all just have to embrace that we all get our period. Love you guys, and have an amazing day, and happy period.